You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 252 of Horsemanship Radio, brought to you by HandsOnGloves.com, the all-in-one revolutionary bathing grooming gloves. Horsemanship Radio is a part of the family of the Horse Radio Network. And today we have Dr. Monty Roberts and Dr. Brigitte von Rechenberg from Zurich University. This is Debbie Laux, and you're listening to Horsemanship Radio. Thanks for joining us. Horsemanship Radio airs on the 1st and the 15th of the month. I have my producer, Jen, with me today. Hi, Jen.
Hey, Debbie.
I really wanted to record this because I got really lucky. There is an old friend of Dad's who was very instrumental. She's not only a professor emeritus at the University of Zurich. Actually, she was one of the first women professor emeritus out of University of Zurich in Switzerland, of course. And she specialized in things that nobody had even really done before, which was interesting. And we'll talk a little bit about her background. But the thing that I think is so strong about her is not only she is a horse girl, she has beautiful Arabians, and she fell in love with Dad's concepts of being sensitive to Arabians, of course, and also taking that force out of training so that they were more cooperative. She caught that on early on, and she insisted that Dad create a degree. Basically, that's how he got his degree, Dr. Monty Roberts, is because he quantified what he was doing with horses. And she is that professor who said this should be scientific. And so they talk a little bit about that. So she came and visited the farm, and I took the opportunity to stick microphones in their faces and get a little background on them. But would you like to hear a quote from Brigitte?
I would, because you were being a professional grown-up podcast host, and you recorded this without me so I'm really curious about this, how the science aspect of Monty's method, that this is the birth of the science aspect of it. I want to hear. Tell me.
It really was. Yeah. That encouraged him. I mean, he was a triple major in the university, but I think he was more the behavioral sciences. And this is where Brigitte comes in and says, well, let's quantify this thing. But I love this. I wrote this down in my notes for her and from her, and basically the question is, like, what tips do you give a young researcher who's looking for an academic career? Because she's a real supporter and mentor that way. And her quote is, I understood relatively early in my life that every failure is also an opportunity, and that the meaning of it will usually reveal itself at some point later. You just have to learn to wait. And it's not always easy, the waiting. Through various twists in my life, I had often reinvented my life again. The price is sometimes a bit high, but the reward of authenticity and independence is worth it. And then she says she should follow her heart. And I love that she added right? Mm-hmm. She should follow her heart, remain firm at the finish, but flexible along the way. Horses also move in arcs when it becomes dangerous. So she related it to horses there too. So I just had to write that down and share that with you too, because she is one of those that will bring along a lot of beautiful scientists that believe in the concepts of gentle horse training and gentle training of people too. I really love her.
Cool. Well, before we get to our first guest, we always have a little chat about Hands on Gloves, because they are our title sponsor after all. And you had mentioned something a little earlier about a mare you had there at the farm that could benefit from some new techniques with the hands-on gloves.
Yes, I loved you. We were talking about hands-on gloves being so clever. There's so many different things about them that we love. But the one thing this
poor mare is always suffering from are the little drips off the belly when we wash her. And she's such a sweetheart. She really puts up with a lot. But for her, you can just tell it's like super ticklish, like there was flies all over her belly. And it's not, it's just a little water drops, But even after you scrape her off, you know how the water creeps down under there and it drips a few more times? It drives her bananas. And you told me about a video that showed a guy who had thrown a towel over his dog in this case. But before you put it back in the car, PU, you get out a towel. But for those who, want to really be able to grip the towel and really get a good job done of drying the dog or the horse in this case. And I could really reach under her belly by putting on my hands-on gloves, grabbing the towel. And, I don't have to hold it very hard if I can scrub under her tummy with that towel and get those last little bits of moisture out of there so it doesn't bother her.
We've all taken the towel and we dry some part of the horse with the towel. Mm-hmm. Well, the towel dries the top of the hair. Right. It does, especially as their hair gets a little heavier in the wintertime.
Yeah, here we are.
It doesn't get down. And it's like trying to wash your hand without using your hair, without using your fingertips. Doesn't work.
Exactly, Jen. That's a perfect analogy because I can't get in there, especially under the belly. It's kind of loose skin and yeah,
that's
perfect.
Brilliant. So washing your horse, give him a quick scrape, and you've already got your hands-on glove on anyway because you were using that to scrub your horse.
Yep.
We'll just grab the towel in your hand. Give the tummy a rub, give the legs, and what a great way to also get the legs and fetlocks and coronets really, really dry because that's going to ward off scratches.
Yes, that's another thing that we can get here in the tall grasses. And she is a pasture horse, but she's absolutely lovely. And she loves her spa days and loves her grooming, but she hates her little drip drops.
There we go.
Her tummy.
Yet another. We're going to have to develop a pamphlet, 101 useful ways that you can use your.
I'm telling you, every time you get horse girls together and you talk about hands-on gloves, we come up with a new one almost every time.
Every time. You can find out more at handsongloves.com or you can find them at your local retailer. And now, Debbie, introduce us to our esteemed guests.
Professor Emeritus Dr. Brigitte von Rechenberg from the University of Zurich is a research scientist and the founder of university departments specializing in research involving bone, cartilage, tendons, spines, and discs, as well as soft tissue research. And this is mostly in animals. So it's cardiovascular and wound healing. It's heady stuff. Dr. von Rechenberg now consults as a board-certified veterinary surgeon specializing in trauma and orthopedics. So she has an extensive experience in clinical and experimental animal surgery. Well, we're really excited that we were able to sit down with Brigitte von Rechenberg and Monty Roberts, a cowboy from California. I'm really excited that I'm glad that you met, first of all. And I wanted to start back from where did your lives cross and then where did it take you? So let's start with Monty. When did you first meet Brigitte? Do you remember? Or we should say Dr. von Rechenberg. Which is fine.
I first met Brigitte von Rechenberg when I was doing a show in Zurich, Switzerland. And her interest in horses, I could immediately tell, was very high. And she brought some students around in the building where I was going to do a demonstration that evening. And I remember so well your, first of all, investigative kind of way, I'll wait and see what happens here. And then they were sitting up to my left there as I was working on a kind of a balcony with the students. And I saw and felt an excitement about dealing with horses in a nonviolent way and having the horses basically say in their language, this is good, this is better, and they did their job. During the intermission, Brigitte brought some students with her down and told me that she was a professor at Zurich University, just down the street. Well, that was nice. I'm a university person anyway. I was really studying hard to try to become better at human and animal behavior. Behavior sciences, it grabbed me from way back when I was 9 years old. Sister Agnes Patricia said, you need to get a good education in behavioral sciences to find out why people do what they do. And she told me, stop blaming your father for being vicious with you and violent toward you. That's him. That's his life. You don't go there. Get away from him and get a good education in behavioral sciences. Well, here comes not only Brigitte von Rechenberg, but Professor Brigitte von Rechenberg, who later went on to become a dean at Zurich University. Her boss was a little bit hesitant in the early days, but then put me in a lab with some students, and the students went back and said, hey, I think this guy knows what he's talking about. And that all began the ability for me to say that I received an honorary doctorate from Zurich University, which then we got a call from Italy, from
Parma University.
Parma.
Yeah, it started the ball rolling, didn't it? And Brigitte, you started the ball rolling. You're a horsewoman too. So let's hear a little bit about your background in horses as well.
Actually, I am a small animal veterinarian to start with. I'm a traumatologist and an orthopedic surgeon. And I always had the dream about horses. And then I got into horses and got into Arabian horses, which are a little bit more complicated than others. And so I was always looking for something which made things, like Arabians don't respond well to pressure, to put it mildly. And so I was always looking for something. And then I actually got convinced in 1991 in Denver by a friend of mine who wanted me to take to this cowboy thing there. And I thought, oh my God, another guru. And and then when I went there, I just saw him treating the horses. I said, this is what I've been looking for all my life. And I bought your T-shirt, which I still have 30, 40 years later. I still wear it. And then I went home and said to my boss, back then, I wasn't a professor back then yet, so I said to my boss, we need to get this guy to Zurich. And then he got you and came over. And that's how we started our relationship. And I was always convinced about it because it was not just the guru thing. It was based on science. What you did is repeatable. You watched the wild horses doing. You looked what the mare did and how she kept the society order, the social order in her herd. And this is repeatable. I can do it with any horse. And this is what science is all about. It's evidence-based. You do it and you repeat it and it works every time you do it. And that's what I liked about it. And so that's where I had the idea to put you up for an honorary doctorate and let me face that what an honorary doctorate at the University of Zurich is. It's people who, they don't need to be veterinarians, but they need to do outstanding work for our field. And I think what Monty did was he changed the world for horses. His idea of, instead of saying that the horse must, but looking at why doesn't the horse do it, it's a change of attitude. It's, you look at the horse very differently. Instead of saying, he has got to do this, you say, why doesn't the horse do this? And that changes your attitude. And I think that Monty, in my eyes, apart from that, he also found a method which is repeatable. I can go to China, I can go anywhere and do the same thing with horses, and they do what I want, what they need to do. I think that he did probably, certainly also by the Queen, who forced you, as I remember, to write the book. You always told me. I think that this changed the world looking at horses, the way they treat horses. And I think that's you changed the lives of horses, but you also changed the life of the owners. Because a lot of people I have introduced into that method and helped them getting their horses going, they said to me, you didn't change only my horse, you solved my problem, but you changed my life as well. So I think that's what I find so special about this.
And what I would say to our audience here is, here's a cowboy from California. And I rode mostly Western horses and cutting and rein cow horses and trained race horses, but I'm a cowboy. That's me. And the Queen has dedicated this as my uniform. So she says, you can stop taking off your hat when you're speaking to me all the time, because if you're wearing a uniform, you don't have to take your hat off. She said, you see all of these guards around me, they don't take their hat off when they're talking to the Queen. So I'm in my uniform, I'm a cowboy. And would you believe that the miracle of me finding Brigitte von Rechenberg, and then at the same time, Queen Elizabeth II. And both of them start to tell the world, you should see this, it works. Who would ever have that kind of luck? It's a miracle that the Queen put me on the road. She took me to a little cafe and she said, I want a book and I want these concepts to go to the world. I want you in every country that I can get you into. What do you do when the Queen of England says something like that to you? You do what you can. So now they have a documentary about me called The Cowboy and the Queen. And I don't particularly like that title because I am not the cowboy, but she is the Queen. Huh? It's true. And I am not the cowboy. There's a lot of cowboys, some a lot better than me, I will say. And I just simply am a cowboy.
Well, I think the difference, what I think, I mean, there are a lot of good horse people out, but very often they can't tell you what they do.
Yeah.
They just do it and it works in their hands. Whereas you created something which is, it's established technology which works all the time. I can work, I mean, I'm not a cowboy at all, and I'm not even a brilliant rider. I love horses and I love my Arabian horses, but it is something that I can walk up to any horse and I can do this and I can show the people within 10 minutes or 15 minutes that they can cure the horse. And I've cured a lot of horses which, with your methods, which have been with 3 riding teachers, with 4 riding teachers, and nothing helped. And then they asked me, and then I looked at them and said, well, you just need to do this and this and this. Why don't you try Monty's methods? And then it works. And that's what convinces me. It's a method which works, and it's a standardized method which every horse understands. And it's so interesting. I always find that the horses look at you and say, oh, finally, somebody got it. It's like they seem to be relieved, not only the owners.
And you have to say that between yourself and Queen Elizabeth II, I was asked to keep it intellectual, to keep it true, to keep it educational, and do your work in a professional way. And I did. I didn't just go jump on horses and go and do the things. I went at it as a professor might, teaching other people to do it, putting riders on that were young and fit. And this all started with me when I was 59 years old. So I was well past time for riding in competition and stuff. But it was you and the Queen that put me on the road to teach it to the world. And oh my word, when I look at the collection of things I have now that represent what I learned and what I'm teaching, it's just amazing to me. I was cutting cattle on a cutting horse at Windsor Castle in 1996. That's what a cowboy does. But then I got off and Princess Margaret was there and did a join up with a horse. And I knew then that if I get it right, the world will find this. I might be gone by the time they do, but they're finding it now. 32,000 people came to see me
In Brazil, that's true. Yeah, you should tell the Brazil story too. I think one of the things, though, that Brigitte was getting to is we talk a lot about Monty's concepts. What are Monty's concepts? But then if you think about what you're saying, every horse on earth knows Monty's concepts. That doesn't make sense. What is it really? It's the horse's concepts. It's the horse's language. It's they're responding to something that you've quantified.
There's one thing which I'd like to add. I once had to introduce you somewhere, I can't remember, in Switzerland, where I had to think a bit because it wasn't just like people who were very educated. And it came to my mind, and that's, I say, as an emancipated woman, is that when I introduced you back then, I realized that Monty has a female concept of leadership, because what you're telling, what you learned it from the mare, and it's actually all of you did is that she rules the social order in the herd, and so it's a female concept, and I think that's probably why I liked it so much.
Might be, and I know it's a female concept. I lived with the Mustangs out there on the plains, and the mares ran the herd.
And there is one thing I learned there too when I analyzed your method. It is the male, the stallion, that is based on dominance and based on he's the testosterone, he's the winner. Whereas the mare goes on, she's actually elected or is the leader because of competence.
Yeah.
And that's what I like.
Yeah,
So.
the stallion in danger times will relate to the mare to save the herd. It's just incredible how female it is. And I'm not a female. I'm not anywhere near the middle of the room. But I watched it and I learned from it.
And you were able to transfer what you saw to movements that we can repeat that works everywhere. I mean, look at I give you a sample. One horse I was trying to help. She was with 4 great horse persons, who were a lot better than I am. And the horse doesn't walk forward. It doesn't go anywhere. And even outside, it doesn't move. So I said, show me what you did. So she sat on the horse in the German way where you put your muscles on, telling the horse to stay. Then she has the limbs too much in the back to tell the horse to go backwards. And then she has a whip which she tells the horse to go forward. So what does the horse do? Poor thing, being totally desperate, decided that I'll take the mathematical medium and stay in the middle and stay and doesn't move. So all I told her is that breathe out, relax, give me the whip. And all you're doing is when I say, yes, now, 2, 3, like you go for 3, you move the hand forward and breathe out. That's all you do. And since then, the horse was walking again. And it was like 4 riding teachers who are professionals, which I'm not, could do it. But I learned from you to watch the horse. And I think that's the difference, especially in Europe. I don't know how it was here, but in Europe, it was the horse has to do this. And I used to say to my riding teacher, he's 500 kilograms and I'm 50. Who do you think wins? And so I always had this concept of I have to understand why the horse doesn't do something. But you were the first one officially out there, not just being a veterinarian who is emotional, as I was told, that you put it into motions, which, like we can transfer it and everybody can do it. Your horse, your books where you, from my hands to yours, where you show how to do it. I remember when I did my first join-up, which you made me do it in Winter Tour. Yeah. I hadn't worked with Monty. I just had read your books. And I was shell-shocked when you told me that I should do this. And I said, okay, if you tell them that I do it to show that this is no miracle, that it's actually based on something that you can learn and everybody can repeat. I did it. I'll never forget that
I know,
show.
I won't either. It was a lot of fun.
These two are fascinating. I'm just so proud of this relationship and them. So we'll get right back to it after this.
Hi, I'm Monty Roberts. And I'm coming to you now to talk about the Monty Roberts Online University. There ought to be 6 months in everybody's life where they just live with their animals. I've been staying home. But 3 months now, I've been home with this virus thing, and the things I'm learning, we're bringing you a new series. What horses see, how horses see, and about horses seeing things. The online university is bringing you the last 3 years of my learning process, which I promise you is the learningest years I ever spent. The Monty Roberts Online University, you won't miss a minute of it if you get started on it. I love bringing it to you, and it's my shot to take my concepts to the next generation.
The word thigmotaxic is a very special word. And there's positive thigmotaxis, and there is negative thigmotaxis. And thigmotaxis means that you go away from pain, negative thigmotaxis. You go into pain, positive thigmotaxis. Now, who goes into pain? We're negative, we human beings. Equus caballus, the horse, is positive thigmotaxis. So when you start knocking on them, they'll move to you into pain. If the door is too narrow to go into the stall and they hit their hip on it, they'll hit it harder the next time. It's a funny thing. But it had to do with the attacks from the canine species, biting into the flanks, and then the horse would go into that pain and kick them in the head, and then they could run away and save their life. And horses are positive. So as you were explaining it, I was thinking, hit the horse to go forward. Whoops, wait a minute. Hitting the horse to go forward is not the answer. And the racing people are now discovering it. Now, thousands of years later, they're discovering that the whips actually cause the horse to run slower. And they have machines that show the speed. So it's not a guess. It's there. And so we're going to see, I won't be around, but we're going to see the world of racing and other competitions go totally anti-violence. It's anti-hitting horses and demanding from horses. Show them what you want, encourage them, and let them do it. That's when you get the real performance from the horse.
And I think the part is also that you don't need any helping things. You don't need sticks, which the horse doesn't understand because it's not his language. It's something really, it's between you and the horse and the communication, the way you look at it or you don't look at it, or the way you turn around and come. And I have now the first 2 Arabians that I got really raw, one coming from the racetrack, kicking like hell, by the way, and the other one, his mother, which hadn't been ridden till she was 12 years of age. And with a trainer of yours, I started to train them, and they've turned out to be wonderful horses. But I gave them time, and I had the time to establish the trust. And they turned out to be really wonderful horses. And I think that's always what I had when I was a kid, and I had this dream that I would have. I wanted to become a veterinarian. I wanted to have one horse, an Arabian, and I wanted to have a dog. So I made it all a bit excessive. I not only became a veterinarian, so I made quite a career. I have 2 horses. I have 6 horses and Arabians, and I have 2 dogs. So I made it all a bit more.
The perfect life.
It was perfect, and it was this dream that I had how to communicate with horses and that's what fascinates me about horses. I never went for competitions. I never did for that. I had this idea about how to be one together. So I think that's what fascinated me. And your methods and your concepts actually made that possible. And that's what I really like about it.
Well, you've got a big hero written across your chest for me. I tell you, I am your biggest fan, because the knowledge that you have, the ability to seek from the books, the deep information that you get from these books, and then put it to work for you, in such a way so that you are acting upon the natural tendencies of the species that we work with. I'm sure there's species where a little more power and a little more demand might be the answer, not horses.
I'm working on a project with kids who are flown out of normal school because their behavior was totally wrong. And of course, they have all family backgrounds, which make it very difficult for them. And with a trainer of yours, Heidrun, I work on a concept of horses where I work with them 10 mornings and have a standardized program for them. So we do research and we watch the kids and we watch the horses. And so we score them, and I'm actually just now doing the statistics on it, so it's research. And I can prove that the horses were mistreated. They were polo horses, which are retired, so they didn't have a really brilliant life. And the kids are also, in a way, abused, being in a very good school. And so we put them together and we showed them actually how in the first course, which takes 10 mornings, it's about trust. So the horse and the kid, they learn trusting each other. And it takes about 4-5 mornings, and always between morning 4 and 5, it flips. And then the horse says, are you okay? Even if the kid is not okay, the horses help them to do things.
Yeah.
And then in the second course, which there we really do difficult things, which a lot of riders couldn't do it on the ground with their horses. And there it's where the learning starts, because they've established the trust. And then the next course is about learning for the kids and the horses. So it's a fabulous program, and I'm finishing up this research and finishing up the data now to publish it. We're writing a book.
So encouraging to me to hear this. But I just want to ask you a question. I know it's a kind of a silly thing, but what discipline in horsemanship has moved the greatest percentage to my nonviolent training away from very violent training? What discipline?
I don't know. I would say that in Europe, I would say that a lot of people like me who just love horses and want to spend their lives with horses but don't want to necessarily compete, I think we call it the free time riders.
Okay.
You know?
So that's the discipline that you're talking about.
I think a lot of people have found your methods to work. And
let me tell you that I'm going to surprise you greatly, because something has happened that is so fantastic I can't begin to even comprehend it. I was here working, and 2 polo players came here that were top-notch polo players, and they saw me working, doing join-up and stuff. And they said, this is unbelievable. They just did a scientific study, and we're killing 52% of the horses that we break. And you're not even killing one. Well, I didn't kill any horses breaking them, that's for sure. So they went back to the #1 polo player in the world, Adolfo Cambiaso, #1 in the world. And he said, are you crazy? You know, we have 200 mares. We get 150, 175 babies every year. We have to break them, and we have to do it strong. No, I'd like you to come and watch him. So he came. He was right up on my round pen, just across the yard there. And he saw that. And he said, Monty, I want 20 horses in one of these fields. I'm going to fly them from Argentina. I want 20 young horses in those fields. And I'm going to send you my 8 breakers that are the #1 in each segment that they had. He sent 8 guys, and they came going, we'll see. When he tries our horses are tough, and they are strong, and they will not do what he asked them to do. And of course, you know the answer. They did what I asked them to do. And those 8 men stood up there and watched that. And they said, oh my God, this is crazy. And so they went down there. And he sent them back the next year. Same 8 guys. And they came in with some more horses. We did some more work. And they said, we have an improvement on your method. We will not break the horses anymore with pain, but we have an improvement. I said, improvement? What's the improvement? Well, we take an old gelding that's being retired, and we put him out with 20 babies. And each gelding has 20 babies all around the place. Mm-hmm. And when they come in for their first join-up, we put the gelding with them that they were friends with.
They're much better.
And they're faster to join up. And Polo now has not, that organization tells me that they have not had one death loss since they changed. So Polo is the number one discipline on the face of the earth using my methods now, and they were the toughest, as you mentioned.
We don't have that many Polo horses in Switzerland, but I agree. And I think for me, there is one other thing. When you look at the German breeding, or they are the kind of they're taking a lot, and now they've started to breed them all to make them better with Arabian horses. Like to refine the breeding. They also did the same with the thoroughbreds.
Yeah.
And now we find that these horses, they don't take crap anymore.
No.
And thoroughbreds can get very, very mean if you really mistreat them. And I think that a lot of people, and it's like the Hannoveraner horses, a lot of people can't get along with them anymore because their methods don't work.
That's right.
And I think with this also, like the breeding changes over the last couple of years, or 10 or 20 years.
Now they can breed
they cannot break these horses as they used to do it, as I call it, the German way.
That's right.
They had to adapt. So I think it's going to be applicable for a lot of other disciplines as well, because the jumpers are not doing what they are supposed to do. The dressage horses don't do it that way anymore because they don't. Too much thoroughbred in them and too much Arabian blood in them doesn't allow them to do this anymore. So I really think that what you did, you changed the attitude for horses and people. It's not only the horses. A lot of people also changed their minds and got a better life because of that.
I'm proud to hear you say that, because that's my life's goal.
Yep.
I want to change it. I'm almost 89 now, and I have to leave it now to the next generation.
Yeah.
But I think I've given them a stair step that will put horses in a better way, a better life for horses for the rest of the time that this earth spins.
I can say that, and I'm not the professional again. When people ask me, and I went there and looked at the stables and I helped them, I said, well, that's what I would do. And then they would do this. Mm-hmm. It would always work. And I've converted a lot of hardcore people the way that they now say, oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what you did. And so,
well, I owe you a great deal of thanks for that. Yeah.
It changed my life, that's for sure.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I think a lot of horses would like to say thank you to both of you because of the acknowledgement that you give to the respect you give to horses as well. There is sensitivity there that people don't always recognize. The flight animal is a little bit under-recognized in the pet world. Carnivores are just different, and we don't always understand that completely. So I'm really glad that you not only brought that to light, but also taught it and didn't just preach it, but you actually used the concepts and shared them with people. You were open source, as they say in the tech world, and that's an unusual thing too, that trainers like to keep things close to their vest, and it's their living, so I get it. But you have created a whole nother opening in that vortex so that people can learn it. And you both speak it very well too, Equus, and also the explanation of why we should do it. Well, thank you both for sitting down with us today and giving us your wisdom.
Whisper the language of the herd. Listen, you don't have to say a word.
It's time for Jamie Jennings to fetch an email from Monty Roberts' inbox and share a morsel of Monty's wisdom in a little segment we'd like to call Ask Monty.
Leave this world a better place than mine. The magic in the language of the herd.
Dear Monty, when you start join up with the horse, won't they think they've done something wrong? What does the horse think at that moment? Monty's answer. If you're referring to the point when you send the horse away, remember that it is the horse's language that you are working in. When this gesture is thought to be offensive by a human being, it's because the human is attempting to translate it into our language. I have borrowed this gesture from the world of the wild horses, just as I have the whole lexicon of the language equus. Horses are perfectly comfortable speaking the language that they have known for over 40 million years. Watch the horse at the end of join up and you will realize that nothing negative has resulted from you sending the horse away. It is virtually impossible to draw a horse back to you until that horse is away from you. What I am attempting to do is to set up an environment whereby the horse exercises freedom of choice. Don't try to speak two languages at once. Learn the language equus. The student horse person is best served by working with a great number of gentle horses. The novice can, in fact, get into a lot of trouble with the raw, untrained juvenile. If a student makes a series of mistakes, it can take long periods of time to regain the trust of the untrained horse. Many scientists have written about the behavior of flight animals and how they respond to the actions of other species. The flight animal is quite accustomed to fleeing to avoid what it perceives as danger. In the wild horse herd, it is commonplace for adolescents to be sent out of the family group for periods of time as discipline for unacceptable behavior. It is a part of their culture and they understand it quite well. Anyone who chooses to study my concepts closely will realize that I wait until the horse chooses to make a move to leave me. In the absence of this flight response, I suggest adding to the gestures of flee gradually until the desired response is achieved. It is at that time that I respond by overtly sending the horse away. I try not to be terribly aggressive in this action. I make a concerted effort to match my movements to the sensitivities of the horse with which I am working. Once the animal has reached his flight distance, the tendency for him is to communicate with me a desire to return. It is at that point in time that I observe the 4 gestures that I have written about so often. Once I have received him, I assume a passive position, thus inviting the horse to return to me. If he does, it is my responsibility to congratulate him with a good rub and gestures of welcome and understanding. Short of achieving that response, I work in arcs or semicircles in front of the horse, and if I get my language right, join up will happen. With these procedures accomplished, one can begin a relationship with the horse whereby he understands that coming closer to the human is a good thing, while distancing himself from the human is less than a good thing. It is also important to note that the negative consequences of doing the less than good thing are to return to work. Too many horsemen would strike the horse for going away, thus producing a relationship of anger and distrust. You may see some practitioners using whips to drive the horses away from them, then stopping the whipping, backing up, eyes on eyes, drawing the horse towards them. This procedure historically has been termed whip breaking and was used by the motion picture industry to achieve the stunts they termed in liberty. I am not a proponent of this type of training, and I do not believe in striking a horse to achieve any response.
For more of these insights into good horsemanship, go to MontyRoberts.com and click on the words Ask Monty at the bottom of the page.
Where in the world is Monty Roberts?
Monty is looking forward to some new friends, 2-legged and 4-legged, because we've got the introductory course. April of 2024, 1 through 16 is the full introductory course. Of course, we break that into modulars too, if somebody can't do the 2 weeks. And then we have the intro exams, April 22 through 26. May 4, we have a mountain trail play day. And then May 11th, Horsemanship 101. That's super popular. And then May 13th through 17, we have our Monty special training. And we will have our Brazilian Miguel Lupiano there, so he can actually do Portuguese translation too, for those that want to join that. And then May 24 through 26, we have a horse sense and healing. Then June, long-term thinkers here, June 10 through 14, Gentling Wild Horses, 5 days there. And then June 21 through 23 is my favorite, is the Movement 2024. And really excited to start to introduce some of those fun things that we're going to do with the movement this year. July, we have an 8 through 12 Monty special training. July 19 through 21, we have a horse sense and healing. And July 20, we have a mountain trail play day. July 27 is a horsemanship 101 for those people who are putting those in the calendar. And then August long-term thinking 5 through 20 is the intro course of horsemanship. So we'll end on that full circle right there. August 2024, 5 through 20.
Dun, dun, dun. And you can find all of that and more at MontyRoberts.com. It's your one-stop shop for all things Monty Roberts, Equus University, Flag is Up Farms, California Horse Center. It goes on and on and on. You can even find this podcast there.
That's right.
So there. Yes, you can also find the phone number there. And the phone number is 805-688-6288. And you can also go to horsemanshipradio.com. That's just the podcast. And you will find links, photos, and more information about today's guests and topics. Contact us on Facebook.
Yeah, that's right.
Monty Roberts' Facebook page is Monty Roberts, the one with a little blue check mark. On Twitter and Instagram, it's not Twitter anymore, it's X now. And Instagram, it's Monty_Roberts.
I have a new person working on the Instagram too, Drew, and she's really good with that camera. So wait for that. She's gonna be better than me, and I love Instagram. So there we go. Many thanks to our sponsors, who we wouldn't be without. And that's Jay Michelson over at HandsOnGloves.com and MontyRobertsUniversity.com, where we're over 800 lessons up there now. And be sure to visit all the other great shows on the Horse Radio Network at www.horseradionetwork.com. Until next time, have many happy horse hours.